Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wine and Real Estate. And today I'm really excited. I have Natasha Cultraro joining us from beautiful Costa Rica, and I'm really jealous. Been looking at flights, but at the time of this recording, it's summer in Canada, and flights are not cheap. So I'm like, oh, I'll have to wait till the fall or winter. But welcome, Natasha. Can you maybe give us a 30,000-foot view of who you are and yeah, what do you do in Costa Rica?
Definitely. Francois, thank you so much for having me on the show.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
from a 30,000 foot view,
From the airplane.
from the airplane, yeah. So, my husband and I, we are real estate investors. We grew up in Ontario, investing in Ontario. I built a property management company in Ontario that I still own and manage remotely. And
Nice.
2 years ago in 2020, in October 2020, we made the big move and we moved down to Costa Rica. We sold our primary residence in Ontario and we decided we were going to spend the rest of our lives, or, at least
Potentially.
10, 20 years. Exactly. Yeah, down here. And, I think growing up with that real estate investing mindset, I looked around and I thought there's so much opportunity here. And so now we're here. We we do plan on retiring very soon. I'm I'd like to consider I could be retired at this point if I wanted to, but really we're still working and we're still taking advantage of the opportunities around. And very soon we're going to, I think we're going to cut it and call it quits and just kind of
Wow.
live life the way that we want to.
You look quite young to retire. Sorry, I'll have to be indiscreet. How old are you?
Uh, we're born the same year, and I'm 37 right now. So,
Wow. And you were talking about retiring. I'm 42, so I'm, yeah, past, I guess, the retirement age. Hey everyone, just wanted to pause and share with you a financing tip that helped us scale our portfolio and can help you too.
In today's episode, I would like to share with you some of the common misconceptions about financing. Today, we discuss the financing wall. The financing wall refers to a situation where the lender you are applying for a mortgage with declines your deal, cuts down the loan amount, or asks that you put a higher down payment into the deal. Hitting the financing wall with one lender does not mean that you will hit it with all other lenders on the street. Lenders generally look at the following variables for a mortgage approval, including your personal income, rental income from your portfolio, your credit, down payment sources, portfolio size, whether you own the property in your personal or corporate name, net worth, and the property you are financing, including its zoning and condition. Although all lenders pretty much account for the same variables, they run the numbers differently. Therefore, if you hit the financing wall with one lender, it is worth exploring other options through a mortgage broker, not by shopping the deal yourself. Because as a client, you just see the tip of the iceberg, which is the interest rate that is being marketed. You don't really get to see how the lenders run the numbers beneath the surface. So, if you are concerned about hitting the financing wall, or if your deal has gotten declined, or you have received financing terms that you are not happy with, myself and my team would be happy to assist. We have helped many clients qualify when they thought they hit the wall, and we have helped many clients acquire many more properties when they thought they can only get two or three. Contact one of our senior advisors at Streetwise Mortgages at info@streetwisemortgages.com. Cheers to your success.
So that's really cool though, because you built that real estate investment portfolio in Canada and your property management and now Costa Rica. And I think you're investing in Costa Rica as well, or starting to, which is very appealing to a lot of my listeners. I get questions all the time like, where should I invest? What should I do? And we're going to cover some of that. But Natasha, I know we've had separate conversations. You've shared some deals and tricks. So if you don't mind sharing some of those on air for me.
yeah, absolutely. Is there something particular you were looking for?
Yeah, you were mentioning something about a triplex. So a lot of people
Gotcha.
think Costa Rica, I buy a villa and I rent it, but
Mhm.
cash flow, I guess, can be a bit tough. Well, I know firsthand. So kind of a multi-unit property can be good, and maybe you can share your experience so far with that.
Right. Okay. Now, what I'll tell you is that we own a triplex, and I mean, when you think of triplex and you come and you live in Ontario or you live in Canada, you think of like a building with 3 units in it,
Yeah.
but really this is more of a vacation complex, and it's
Nice.
got three separate villas. Each villa is its own little hut or cabina, as they call it. It's a small property. It's about 1,000 square meters, which is about a quarter acre, and we've got the three villas on it, a couple of pools, some parking, a yoga deck that's in the works,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's located in Uvita. It's walking distance to the Uvita beach where the whale's tail protrusion is in the sand, and Uvita is a huge tourist destination. So that was our first kind of taste of what the triplex could really mean. And now we're actually building another one here where we live. We're renting in Brasilito right now, and we're building the next one in. Sorry, we're living in Flamingo right now, and we're building the next one in Brasilito, which is just about 5 minutes down the road. And to answer your question, Francois, the reason we're going with triplexes or multi
Multi,
units
yeah,
is it's really because the I mean, it's the cash flow, right? But
for
it's
sure.
really the investment versus the income. It's the ROI. Because in Costa Rica, and I mean, we can get to it later, there it's harder to finance properties.
For
And
sure.
when you put more money into the property, your money is tied up and you can't refinance it, you can't get it out. And so that property, that investment better be working really well for
Yeah.
you. Otherwise you could put your money somewhere else and get a better return. Why that's why we're looking at what that's why we've committed to the triplexes. That's the strategy for us.
Yeah, because you're a savvy investor, and each market's different, and that's what I like to hear. Like I invest in Florida and other places, and there, like a single family house works, but it's not the same. And like you said, you're parking money. You can't do the burr strategy. Maybe you can tell us a bit about financing in Costa Rica. I didn't. A lot of people think there are no options. It's cash only, which can be hard. Like rounding up what $500,000 to buy something or 200. I know it varies quite a bit, but what are some of the options you've come across, Natasha?
There are a few that I've found, and it's taken a lot of active work,
I
Francois,
can
to find
imagine.
these options. So I think this is very valuable information. Um, so first of all, there's a Canadian credit union called Seaport. I know you know it very well, and that is an amazing way to use your own RRSP money or someone else's RRSP money to invest in real estate outside of Canada, and they will fund 100% or up to 100% of your Costa Rica property. Another one is K Bank, Kaye, K Bank in Belize. And Belize will allow you, or this bank in Belize will allow you to borrow 50% or up to 50% of the property. And they will allow you to amortize that over 20, 25 years, which is nice. High interest rates, but it's better than nothing.
What is high? Because that's very relative these
12,
days. 12?
12%. Yeah.
Okay, so almost
Yeah.
like sort of private lending in Canada. So not horrendous, but you need a solid plan for this.
Yeah, yeah. You want to make sure you're cash flowing so that you're able to pay
Covering.
that off. So for example, if you were to buy a a primary residence in Costa Rica, or even if you bought a single family home and you didn't run your numbers, you could be at a negative in order to pay this off.
Wow.
I mean, 25 years is a nice amortization, so it's not going to really put you out.
No.
Um, but I'm going to jump into the next one, and the next one is a private lender that I found here in Costa Rica called
Oh,
Costa
great.
Private Loans. It's costapривateloans.com. and they'll fund up to 50% of the property as well. It's at about 10 to 12% as well. And they have a few more restrictions because really, I mean, it's a private lender. He can, right?
Yeah, you'll do whatever he wants.
Exactly. But he does want you to pay back the loan within 5 years. So your payments are going to be higher. But
Okay.
he'll lend money against a property that has a building on it, so some kind of structure. So
So
that'll
you
make it
can't get
easier.
raw land or something.
Exactly. Whereas K Bank in Belize will allow that and will allow a longer amortization. But actually, the catch there, Francois, is that you'll have to, because it's a different country, they want it to be easy to, and I know this is a scary word, but they want it to be easy to repossess the property if they have
Yeah.
to, if you default on your payments. And so the corporation that holds the property has to be a Belize corporation, and they need to be
Oh,
shareholders on that corporation as well. So
oh
they
my.
really cover themselves. You know, they're
Oh,
very
smart.
careful.
They don't want the 2008 bubble in the US with all the housing, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Very
those
cool.
are the different options that I share with people. I think that depending on their risk appetite and the type of property that they want to build or buy, it really will come down to that, which funding option they choose.
And I guess another one would be in Canada, if you have a line of credit, a HELOC, something, then you could just bring the cash. But then you're converting Canadian funds to US dollars, which is sometimes not very desirable, but then you're getting US income as well. So I guess pros and cons. And I just saw you drinking tea. So can you tell us more about it? Sounded like a fancy tea of some kind.
I don't know if it's fancy, but
To
it
me, it's
kind of
fancy.
You know, if I knew we were going to be talking about the drinks, I may have picked something different, but but
No, it's fun.
this is a tea that my mom brought back for me from Lebanon, and it's a mix of medicinal flowers and herbs. And I don't really know what it is, but I like it, and I don't know what kind of medicinal value it adds, but I this was the one that I picked for our conversation today because I feel like it'll keep me sharp and it'll keep me energized, you know? And
Good.
it's delicious.
Very cool. My wine will not help with focus and energy, unfortunately.
And what
Very
are you
nice.
drinking?
Oh, I'm having it's a Shiraz from Ontario, so nothing fancy. I usually have quite a nice reserve, but nope, not today, I guess.
Yeah. It's still good. I love Ontario wine.
Yes, yeah. There's many to be discovered. There's actually wineries even in Ottawa. A lot of people don't know about that because it's quite far north, but yeah, and I tried in Costa Rica. I looked, but I couldn't find wineries. It's not a great climate for
For
grapes,
grapes.
but for
Yeah.
coffee, yes, and all kinds of fruit and different things. So, what are you seeing where you live, Natasha? Like, what's growing and what could be appealing to people?
You mean food?
Yeah, food wise, I know everything's
Oh,
good, but
oh, I love the food here. It's so good. Um, papayas just, you know, fall from the trees. Um,
mangoes, I think I remember.
Mangoes, yeah. So we have mango season probably 3 times a year, and
Oh
the tr
wow,
and we've got in my community here, we've got a whole row of mango trees, and then we've got another section with a couple more mango trees. They've got different varieties, you know, the bigger red ones and the smaller yellow ones.
Yes.
And in the mango season, they just drip. They're just dripping with mangoes. There's a box, you know, at the bottom, and we kind of like put them in the box, and then, you know, we just go grab them and we kind of snack on them and we bring them home. And I mean, there's fish in the ocean, so you can go with like a line and a hook and fish in the ocean and get your meal that way. A lot of the locals, there's a lot of poverty in this country, of course,
yeah,
because the minimum wage is, you know, non-existent, but there's not a lot of hunger, and
because
that's
they can eat
because
for free.
exactly. There's food everywhere. And, you know, and, you know, we come in us expats with our expectations of, you know, we need like Lay's potato chips and we need, uh, you know, this kind of like we want Hershey's chocolate instead of the delicious
Local
cocoa
chocolate.
that they grow here, you know. And the good thing is that the local food is cheap. And Costa Rica makes a lot of money on imports. So anything that's imported into the country, like, you know, hair products or shampoos or toiletries or food, all obviously metal, building supplies, you know, like appliances, you name it, they're taxed so hard, and everything that's imported is very expensive. So if you can get by on the local food, then that's going to cut your food bill in half.
It really does. When I stayed in March, we bought some of the local cheese and a few things, and everything was delicious. It's a bit of a discovery because you don't know. Thankfully, I know some Spanish. I was able to kind of get by, but it's harder sometimes to guess like what is this cheese or this vegetable or meat. Some of it you can't even identify because it's not labeled the same, but it was extremely inexpensive and very good. So this leads me to maybe some of the challenges about investing in Costa Rica, because now you're mentioning the food. If you go local, it's great. Same with materials. I know there's a lot of local furniture makers and things like that, or you could buy imports, but those are taxed again very heavily. So, what are some of the challenges to investing in Costa Rica? We also covered financing. It's a bit more
Hmm.
tricky, but if you're smart about it, it can work.
Hmm. Um, so you touched on a few things there, and I want to tell you right off the bat that probably the hardest thing to invest in Costa Rica is to get your money here.
Yeah.
So before we left Canada, we knew what our plans were. We thought ahead and we had a conversation with our bank manager, and we said we're going to be making some transfers over to Costa Rica. And thank God we did that, because every time we have to make a purchase, like for a car or a property, even to pay rent or my daughter's school tuition, whatever it is, it's this whole like show. It's this whole like dance that we have to do. So we have to make a call, we have to send an email, we have to print it off, we have to sign it. You know, we
Oh
have to
my.
smell it. It's a pain. Um, there. So what we've done is we have a US bank account now, and it's
That's what I
much
was gonna
easier.
say. Get a US bank,
Yes,
then you just call them up and wire the money and you're done.
exactly,
But from
exactly. And
Canada, yes, it's horrible.
it that was a real pain. And then recently, so we've been using Wise Transfers, the app,
Yeah.
and recently a lot of places have made the decision not to use Wise anymore.
Oh
And
no.
so we're waiting for a new app to come up or some new way, but in the meantime, we're wiring everything. So
It's expensive if you want to do big chunks, because I think I last time I paid like 75 US dollars to send like money, and it adds up. I mean, you can't do that every week. Well, you could, but it'd be silly.
yeah. Yeah, it's a pain, but my corporate bank account is almost open here. So we've got a Costa
Great.
Rican corporation for our rentals down south in Uvita, and and it's a long process.
It really
It's a
is.
long
Mine.
process. Yeah, to create a bank account, and so hopefully when that's done, it's going to allow me to do some online banking. It's going to make my day-to-day work a little bit easier.
I'm curious to ask, which bank did you choose? I'm with Banco BCT,
Mhm.
but it's a smaller bank. I'm not sure which one you picked, but
BCR, Bank of Costa Rica.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard good things. It's just so weird because in Canada you can open a bank account in seconds. You just go online. But if you have citizenship, I guess you get the cedula, the identity
Mhm.
thing, and then you could open it up online. But I would not be corporate. So now you're doing corporate account. So
That's right. That's right. And actually, that's another thing that's a challenge in Costa Rica is that everything is, I mean, in Canada, we're used to you fill out this form, you submit it here, it takes 4 to 6 weeks, then you're good. But it's not like that here, because
nope.
you could do the first part and then you go back and you say, okay, here's my form, I filled it out, we signed it, that sort of thing, and they say, oh no, you need this too. And then you say, okay, fine. So you go, you get that, and you come back and you say, okay, now we're ready to go. And they're like, oh, I submitted it to my supervisor, but something happened and the form changed, like that's what happened with our residency. We submitted our residency, like Francois, it was before we moved in October 2020. So
Oh, wow.
it was 2 years ago we submitted it, and we got we had our appointment, and our lawyer went to the appointment, and they said, you've used the wrong form. And they said, well, it was the right form when we submitted it, it just took 8 months to get to this meeting.
It changed. Oh my goodness.
So so we're still waiting, and so she suggested we appeal, and because otherwise we'd have to get all these other forms again, because those forms have to be requested within 3 months
And
from,
authenticated and oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. And so now we're waiting for our appeal date in September.
Wow. But patience, I guess you're enjoying your mangoes and your papayas and it's not so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, we can't complain. And it hasn't stopped us from investing. You don't need to be a resident to invest. You don't
No.
need to have, ties to anybody in the country. All you need is a lawyer, a good lawyer to help you close, and that's it.
And you have an awesome team. I know you shared recently some of your contacts, and they're great, investor focused, and they understand Canadian or American realities because it's quite different. So, how is it working with architects and builders? Because I know you're building. Is that also very different? I don't know if in Canada you were doing development, but I'm sure it's quite different.
It's I think the biggest challenge is the language barrier,
Okay.
because I work with a team, a man and a woman, and she is the lead architect, and she doesn't speak English very well. Um, it is my it is my goal to become a conversational in Spanish by the end of this year. So this
Oh,
is
muy
something that
bien.
yeah, yeah, I'm working towards it, poco a poco, little by little, every day. I'm getting there. But her partner is fluent in English, and so
Okay.
and they're always together. We always either we're FaceTime or we're in person. We're always communicating with them. Um, there are some differences that we think about in Costa Rica, such as water management. Water management is
Uh,
huge because of the downpours in the rainy season.
I know people don't realize, oh, buy this nice, like zero clearance house, like it's right flat on the ground with the pool. And yeah, that's asking for
Uh-huh.
trouble.
Definitely. And probably one of the better things is that, although, well, actually, I guess it's about the same in Ontario, because although the
Snow.
materials, yeah, we don't have the snow, right?
No.
But the material costs are a little bit higher for things that have to be imported, but that is balanced by the cheap labor. So
Yeah.
so labor here is about 2,000 colones an hour, which is about $4
Oh
Canadian
my
an
goodness.
hour. Yeah.
Wow.
And so when I did a comparison of a build in Canada versus a build here, taking into consideration the cost of the materials and the labor, it's a little bit cheaper here.
Wow. There you
It's
go.
cheaper
Saving.
here. Yeah.
And design wise, I guess you have different considerations. Like you said, water management. Do you have some examples of things you do to kind of mitigate that flooding, potential flooding during rainy season?
Absolutely. I think the number one is deep trenches. Deep trenches, proper sloping all around. I mean, we're right now we're building from scratch, and so we
You can do
are
whatever you want.
exactly. And so we also have a water, uh what's the word? Like a, not a tank, but like
A
a
cistern
concrete,
or
yeah, like a concrete um almost like a room, right, underground, and
great.
it fills up. I can't remember the English word for it now, but it fills
Como
up,
se
and then
dice en español?
and we're going to use that water to water our gardens in the dry season.
Yes,
So that's another thing that will fill up before, before our house
it
fills up.
floods.
Exactly, exactly. And of course, massive gutters and massive awnings. Like and everybody does it. You don't even have to ask.
That's standard. It's like Canada. I mean, you don't ask for insulation. It's kind of standard with the house
Yeah.
and basements and stuff. And then
Mhm.
hot water as well. I found normally down in Costa Rica, it's on demand. So you don't want those big tanks heating up the house. And
Mhm.
electricity, I find, is great because it's the same system as North America. So you don't need those converters like in Mexico and Europe. So lots of pros and to that. And internet as well. Like, I mean, we're recording this online and feels like you could be in Toronto or wherever. So is that something you have to bring in when you're building the fiber optics, or is that kind of standard, or it depends where you're building? Or
It really depends on the location. So if
okay.
I could tell your audience one thing is before you buy land, if you want to build, make sure that you have a water letter within
Yes.
2 years. Make sure you have electricity and you have internet, because if you don't have a water letter and there's a shortage right now, and they're cutting off water letters because there's so much building happening, so much development happening, they can't promise that they're going to be able to support that. Um, you won't be able to build because you need that water letter to get your permits. If you don't have guarantee that there's electricity, you may have to spend 5 or 6 figures to put up electrical poles and bring the wires to your property.
Wow.
It's insane, and same with the internet. So this is just part of the due diligence that you'll have to do if you want to live a North American life,
Yes.
that standard. But it's doable. It's definitely doable.
It is, and people don't realize it's a developing country. So there's many areas like Uvida is more. It's a bit more remote. It's not near one of the bigger highways and things. But it's like building in Canada, like northern Ontario, even eastern Ontario, where I live. There's some parts that are not as developed. There's no hydro. There's no internet or anything. So it's kind of the same idea, but that's really interesting. And so that's great that you found a team of architects, the contractor, and all that. How does that work? Do you have someone helping you with contracts and making kind of installments, or?
You mean the contractors that are building?
Yeah, that's it. Or is that managed by the architect, or is that separate? Or
It's managed by the architect. And what we did, my husband and I, we interviewed about 7 or 8 architects before we went with this team, and we saw the work that they've done. And and obviously we went through our due diligence, make sure we picked the right person. But she's got the same team working on our house that built some of the big luxurious houses that we saw
oh,
before
great.
we agreed to yeah before we agreed to go ahead with her. So I do have a lot of confidence in that. And they've been so responsive, so responsive, and so um, wanting to deliver good service and wanting to gain our trust. And so that was nice as well. But again, we're every step of the way we're very involved in the
Yeah, I
build.
can
And
imagine.
and we can be because we're only 5 minutes away.
Oh,
So
good.
so it makes it easy.
No, that's awesome. So maybe going back to my list of questions I have here. So what are the best strategies you would say to invest in Costa Rica? People get excited. They're like, I could do all this, but what do you think is the or some of the best ways?
let's first of all let's first of all talk a little bit about the history of Costa Rica real estate. What I can tell you is that up until a couple of years ago, for a decade, real estate prices did not budge. They
Oh,
did not
wow. It's
move.
like
They didn't go
Alberta.
up. It was crazy. And now there's this huge spike because expats are coming in because of the pandemic. There's a marina going up. Real estate is just booming and it skyrocketed. And I'm seeing a little bit of a cool down, probably because of what's happening in the United States. But regardless, I don't invest in Costa Rica for appreciation.
No,
I
it's not a
you c
market for
I
that.
can't. I can't. I mean, just looking at the history and all of that stuff, it's not something that I have confidence in. If I want to invest for appreciation, I'm going to stay in Canada.
Yeah.
right? And what we're doing right now at this phase of our lives, Paul and I, my husband, we are transferring some of those appreciating properties, appreciating real estate in Canada, and we're trading them for some of the cash flowing properties
So you can
here in
retire
Costa Rica. Exactly. You got it.
at
You
38,
got it.
39.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you can cash flow really well if you have the right property. If it's
Yeah.
big and luxurious, short-term rentals is the way to go, Francois, because we know how hard it is, the LTB in Ontario. It is even harder here for long-term rentals in Costa Rica.
Wow. So that's total prison. Don't go there.
Don't go there. No, short-term rentals are the way to go. Protect yourself with insurance, through Airbnb, and you can and you just it's just the cash flow. So whether you have three two-bedroom villas with a pool, walking distance to the beach, like that, that'll retire you.
Unreal.
That'll retire an average North American couple. Or if you are building a mansion, and then you can probably retire a couple, like maybe you can retire four people if you have
Wow.
a mansion and you can rent it out, and it's walkable, and it's close to the beach and amenities and attractions. So
I feel like selling everything and just building one of those mansions and retiring for real.
yeah, totally, it's doable, at this stage in our lives.
Very cool. And that's why, like, you spent years building your business in Canada. How many years was that? Because right now it sounds kind of easy-ish, but how many years did you work at this?
16.
So there you go. So it's
16,
not like
yeah.
it looks like instant success, but it's been 16 years. So
It's been 16 years, yeah, and it's still hard. I mean, right now is a tricky time to sell in
it
Ontario,
really is. Yeah.
but let me tell you, I've got a property that I'm selling in Ontario,
Good.
and people are unsure, and they kind of feel bad for me. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You have to sell now." And the truth is that I've owned that property for 16 years, and it's
Oh, wow.
made a fortune for me, and it's going to allow me to retire and build the home of my dreams here in Costa Rica, and uh and it's the right decision for me. So it's funny, we see what other people are doing sometimes, and we're so quick to judge, and it's and it and we never really know the full picture. But
Nope.
I'm I'm really glad that we made this decision to move to Costa Rica. I mean, Paul and I, and even our daughter Skylar, it's just been such a transformation for us as a family and individually. And we've got a newfound respect for nature and
Yeah.
community and our health. And it's so much more than real estate, and it's so much more than building businesses and making money. And I
Sounds
and
like
I
my intro.
exactly. I was thinking that. So you've really hit the nail on the head here, Francois, with wine and real estate,
It's
because
lifestyle.
exactly, we
And
get
like
so caught
more
up
like
sometimes.
helping people and all the people you're hiring, you're creating wealth for them as well. So it's yeah, it makes a big difference. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So thank you so much for taking. I know you're a busy woman and you're trying to retire. So and you're a mom. So where can people find out more about what you do and maybe participate? I know you host sort of webinars and things. So I'd love for them to get some value out of it and maybe meet you as well. I think you're a great resource, fountain of knowledge. So how can we reach you?
Yeah. Well, I've been doing less and less. I've been trying to do less and less, but people can definitely reach out to me by email. My email address is natasha.cultraro@gmail.com. So it's just my first name dot last name. And I do help people who want to invest in Costa Rica. Um, and and depending on the person, I'm willing to take on more and help them and kind of point them in the right direction, give them the resources and any advice that they might need. So, yeah, I will never say no to that.
No, it's amazing, and it's part of building this community, and that's why I host this podcast as well. The whole idea is to help people grow and scale and help each other. That's how I grew my business. I'm sure yours as well in those 16 years is other investors investing in you, maybe not financially, but through knowledge and sharing their wealth of knowledge. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'll let you enjoy your late afternoon. And I can't wait to catch up maybe in person this fall and see more of what you're up to. And I can't wait for your retirement day. It's going to be amazing, and it's coming up fast. So enjoy working while you still are working.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Francois. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hey there, listeners. We hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Wine and Real Estate podcast.
Yes, absolutely. You can find us on Instagram. Our handle is wine_and_real estate. So wine and real estate. On Facebook, FL Homes Corp. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel.
Yes, and please make sure to give us a rating, 5 stars, or any comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we love suggestions as well. Cheers.
Yeah, chin chin.